The Fermi Paradox is the discrepancy between the age of the universe and the apparent lack of other intelligent life on other planets. It states that 1. There are billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy similar to the Sun. 2. With a high probability that some of these stars have Earth-like planets in a similar habitable zone. 3. Many of these stars and hence their planets are much older than the Sun. If Earth-like planets are typical, some may have developed intelligent life long ago. 4. Some of these civilizations may have developed interstellar travel. 5. At the pace of the currently envisioned interstellar travel, the Milky Way galaxy could be completely traversed in a few million years. 6. Since many of the Sun-like stars are billions of years older than our Sun, the Earth should have been already visited by extraterrestrial civilizations, or at least their probes. 7. However, there is no convincing evidence that this has happened. Or to put it simply, with the universe being as old as it is, where are the aliens? Dead Space answers with, because there are super predators the size of planets which consume life. 65 million years ago, a meteorite crashed into what is now known as the Yucatan Peninsula. In the world of Dead Space, this object was the Black Marker, an object which gives off a distinct energy signal which can corrupt and change the genetics of creatures, similar to the obelisk from 2001: A Space Odyssey, in that it acts as a programmed computer. This black marker would later be replicated by humanity in a bid to gain a source of unlimited clean energy with the creation of red markers, which would be sent to other colonies, including the first game's Aegis 7. This black marker would remain undiscovered until the year 2214, where it was observed with a bathysphere by Dr. Michael Altman. When he returned to the surface, he observed a film of bacteria clinging to the outside of the bathysphere, which came from the marker. This bacteria would be the cause of all the future outbreaks of creatures termed necromorphs. In the course of playing the series, players learn these key facts about the necromorph outbreaks with little extra required exploration. 1. The markers are the cause of these outbreaks. 2. The markers are created by Brethren Moons for the purpose of making more Brethren Moons. 3. The slashers and other variants of necromorph were once human. 4. The corruption is a genetically human tissue and replicates extremely quickly. 5. Necromorphs bring biomass to the marker for convergence. 6. This convergence causes the birth of a Brethren Moon, which consumes the planet it is created on. Remember convergence, because it will appear again towards the end of this video. However, with further reading and information provided through text and audio logs present in the games, it is possible to piece together the science behind these decisions made by the developers when developing the series. The bacteria of the marker acts as a viral bacteria like pneumonia, which enters human cells and hijacks the genome transcription and creation process to replicate itself within a host cell. This bacteria also appears to be anaerobic due to it being able to multiply without oxygen present in the area around it, especially after it produces large amounts of methane gas and hydrogen sulfate, a process used to great effect in an early stage of the outbreak called the corruption and the mid-stage necromorphs, the Wheezer. The bacteria is able to replicate itself far quicker than E. coli bacteria, which can double in 20 minutes, instead dividing 20 times per minute, which is due to the bacteria shutting off the p53 gene, which prevents rampant mitosis in the body, causing a form of cancer. The bacteria also causes a shutdown of the immune system's neutrophils, which perform phagocytosis, the consumption of foreign cells, and eosinophils, which can kill infected cells within the body, evidenced by the toxicology report on the late Captain Matthias of the first game. However, when this bacteria is near the markers, it becomes dormant, which allows for the marker's signal to affect a person much more. This signal, alongside the heavily weakened immune system, causes insomnia, hallucinations which contain the information to build markers, dementia, and violent tendencies due to brain damage. Luckily for the player character Isaac Clarke and his team, they are unaffected by the marker's signal and the bacteria when they arrive, so they are still in top condition. However, by the end of the game, this is not the case. It is stated multiple times in the game that those who possess a higher intelligence see the marker symbols and visions as a code to create more markers, which would allow for the outbreaks to spread much further. In real life, higher intelligence is equated with increased dendritic, neuronal, and cortical density. As the marker signal passes over the body, it flashes these symbols into the mind with the schematics to easily reverse engineer itself to create more of itself. However, this forceful insertion of knowledge through the signal burns out these neurons and dendritic connections, causing brain damage. People who are more intelligent and therefore have increased neuronal and dendritic density are able to survive the damage caused and go on to create more markers, which is exactly as intended. The corruption is a large fleshy substance which appears as a symptom of the initial outbreak. Starting by taking the shed skin cells and other dead cells in the area, the bacteria is able to hijack the non-functioning ribosomal RNA-producing areas of the cells. As mentioned earlier, the bacteria suppresses the p53 rapid mitosis genes, but activates the WNT3A gene, which influences mesenchymal stem cell production, which is connective tissue, blood vessels, and the lymphatic system. This process allows the bacteria to restart the cell's production of other cells, from flesh to bone, while editing the genetic information to remove any growth-limiting factors. This corruption is able to prevent movement between areas, blocking doorways, breaking bridges, and creating slick surfaces to trip fleeing creatures. The corruption absorbs stationary biomass, such as dead bodies or unconscious people, to better increase the biomass available to itself. However, the main function of the corruption is to start the change in the atmosphere from oxygen to methane gas as a way to kill all biological material within a given area, which would create more biomass for the corruption to consume. The enemies of the Dead Space franchise, besides the organized religion of unitology and the government, are the necromorphs, the creatures reanimated by the marker and the bacteria. The morphology of these creatures varies wildly between variants, with their purpose and frequency depending on the stage of the outbreak, starting with the most common type of necromorph, the slasher. The standard soldier of the necromorph outbreaks appearing in every instance. Starting with the feet have lengthened into a more digitigrade structure with an extra toe protruding out the back for balance, which allows for bursts of speed, allowing the slasher to catch up with fleeing biomass quickly. Their vertebral column has thickened significantly, protruding out the back of the creature, and its frontal pelvic region no longer exists. In certain slashers and other variants, the visible intestines are where the marker bacteria replicates and stores itself. Moving on to the thoracic region, the creature has grown a smaller pair of vestigial arms which it uses to crawl along the ground when its legs are destroyed to propel itself from the ground to leap at prey. The shoulder joints have reworked to cause the arms to grow above the head rather than down, partially due to the spinal growth causing the head to be pushed forwards, with the forearms and hands being elongated to nearly twice their length and large bony scythes growing out of the palms of the hands which they use for offensive purposes. Something to note is that with each of the necromorphs, their purpose is to simply kill and bring biomass to the markers for a process called conversions. Thus the strength of their muscles and bones, which have grown far denser than regular humans, are not limited to prevent self-harm like in living humans. The Infector is the hidden mastermind of the necromorph outbreak, usually being the first variant created by the marker signal and bacteria. Once more, starting with the feet, the legs have been bent at the knee, causing the legs to bend in the opposite direction. The space between the legs and the thoracic region of the body has been filled with a wing-like skin membrane, which the Infector uses to momentarily fly around to position itself above corpses, or future corpses. The arms of this variant seem to have been repurposed into the tissue which these wings are made of, along with the head. Parts of the spinal column and throat have been repurposed into a proboscis which directly connects to the now combined stomach intestines containing the marker bacteria, and the ribs have been removed. Due to the extremely quick transformation process which the Infector causes, the viral bacteria housed within the Infector seems to turn the cells into a form of extremophile, which is able to survive the energy released from the transformation process. The exploder, as one would expect, explodes. Starting with the feet, the legs have fused together with one foot being elongated and split in half to cause 2 points of contact to the ground. The shin and calves have snapped and twisted, causing the leg to have 2 joints as opposed to a regular human single knee, becoming tri-segmented. Once again, the intestines are on full display, but this time serve a purpose. They are attached to a large sac which grows from the shoulder onto a new bone spur and is used as another point of contact, with the original arm still remaining. This sac is filled with the methane gas which bacteria produces, and also hydrogen sulfide, which is highly reactive. When this arm is slammed into the ground or violently hit, it explodes. Moving on to the other arm of this creature, it has doubled in length, causing it to reach from the shoulder all the way down to the ground, forming a third point of contact, with the exploder walking on the balls of its hands for locomotion. Its head has split in half, with shards of bone being formed into rudimentary teeth so that the exploder can eat other biomass which it converts into methane and hydrogen sulfide gases for its sac in the intestines. The exploders also show a form of remaining sentience. They are known to gather in groups and chatter in a form of social gathering. This shows that the brains of these creatures, while damaged, remains functional. This is likely due to the marker and bacteria not wanting these exploders to harm each other and cause a chain reaction, but also provides horrifying implications which we will explore more with the Guardian. The Guardian is a sedentary form of necromorph which is attached to the walls covered in corruption. It appears to be created after a still living person is consumed by the corruption either willingly or unwillingly in an area of importance. Starting with the feet, in both the immature and mature forms of Guardian, there are no feet. The immature form of Guardian has a stimulus effect which is not present in other forms of necromorphs. When shining a light into their eyes, they attempt to cover them, showing that the brain is still functional. This is extra horrifying, as with all necromorphs, the body has been heavily mutated. The immature form's intestines have been converted into whip-like claws which it uses to assault creatures which get too close. However, the mature form, who also shows stimulus effects via screaming and moaning, is far worse. The arms still hold open the ripped open torso even though they have already fused into the body. The whip-like intestines have been further constrained to the point that when unleashed they can rip off a creature's head before they even notice, shown by Isaac's spinal column instinctively causing his hands to reach for the wound. There is also a protrusion towards the pelvic area which the marker and bacteria have repurposed to fire out pods. These pods being malformed biomass who use their own vertebrae as projectiles. In-game, the Wheezer appears in the areas of the ship relating to food production and oxygen supply. Its purpose is to replace the oxygen within the atmosphere with toxic methane gas to prevent respiration of biomass, ultimately leading to its demise. Starting with the feet, the calves and thighs have fused into a kneeling position, causing this variant to become sedentary. While this would usually be a disadvantage, the purpose of the Wheezer is to replace oxygen nearby, which would cause any unprotected biomass to expire rather quickly or flee the area, allowing the Wheezer to replace more of the atmosphere. The organs and the ribs of the creature have eroded to make space and biomass for the lungs, which have expanded to be nearly the same size as the creature's body, allowing for a large intake and outtake of gases, which is aided by the esophagus and trachea being fused into one large hollow tube, reinforced by neck muscles and a missing jaw. The Wheezers act in conjunction with the corruption in the duties of terraforming an area to become toxic to life. Remember, the necromorphs are anaerobic creatures who do not require oxygen for their survival. The brutes are not a creature made from a single body. They are a fusion of at least 5 bodies, one usually being the body of a slasher. The first appearance of one in-game is when the player character reaches the flight deck of the ship and passes by the security office where the brute is a large creature covered in bony plating, strong enough to smash through reinforced glass and barricades with ease, weighing close to 800 kilograms and standing nearly 2 meters tall without standing upright. Starting with the feet, the back feet are made of 2 feet, with one body being used for each leg up to the pelvis, which is a fusion of the 2 torsos. The back is mostly unarmored until the middle of the shoulders, with a large bone plate which covers the vulnerable joints when the arms move. The mandible of the creature is missing, but the slasher's scythes remain. However, its main form of attack are its gorilla-like front feet, which curl to form a pair of knuckles which are covered in bone plating and used to batter down barricades and bodies. The Leaper is a creature which originates due to the zero-G environment which affects areas of the ship. Starting with the feet, there are no feet. Instead, the legs have fused together and the spinal column has been lengthened and thickened into a tail, possibly due to reactivated tail genes. The end of this tail sports a bob formed from a fusion of the sacrum and coccyx bones, with the spinal erector muscles lengthened to support these new areas and provide attacking power. The Leaper's arms have not been removed, but they have been strengthened and lengthened, with the digits becoming sharpened claws for slashing and gripping into surfaces. The mouth has been deformed to allow for mandible-like protrusions to exit and be used as a form of attack. These fangs on the mandibles appear to be overgrown and enhanced hyoid bones. The Divider is a group of necromorphs who work together in a form of macro-colony with a looming presence 2 to 3 times the height of a regular person. Starting with the feet, the ankle bones and other connective joints have been replaced with long, strong tentacles which appear to be refashioned intestines which are smooth muscle. The spine has been severed and is now held up by these tendrils, which also appear to grow through other parts of the body and move like vines to search for a new host. The palms have doubled in size with the pinky and ring fingers and the index and middle fingers fusing and lengthening into claws alongside the thumb. When damaged enough, the feet, hands and head of the creature will split apart like a lizard tail would as a distraction, with the head being the main threat. The head will attempt to choke out a person and sever their head from the neck so that it would be able to interface itself with the spinal column and central nervous system to puppet the body. The ultimate goal of the necromorph outbreak before convergence is to form a nexus organism, but before this creature appears, there are many separate stages. Starting with no more feet. Starting with the slasher, certain individuals who possess an increased number of mirror neurons, responsible for empathy in people, start to grow a set of 5 fleshy growths around their faces. This form of slasher is only present at the start of an outbreak, and can be seen in Dead Space 2, which takes place during the start of an outbreak rather than during the middle of one. This then progresses to the form of the Ubermorph, necromorph. The once small vestigial arms have now grown and wrapped around the body, and the fleshy growths have formed into a set of eyes, which remain present in all future stages. This then progresses into the form of the Leviathan found within the hydroponics section of Dead Space 1 after a sufficient amount of biomass has been collected into the Ubermorph. It has significantly grown in size, now sporting strong tendrils which it uses to pull biomass into itself to consume. The second to last stage of a necromorph outbreak is the true Nexus organism. This creature acts as a queen bee for the other necromorphs, providing a central area for biomass to be collected into, allowing it to grow larger and larger. The size of these creatures vary, with the one in Dead Space 1 never having its full body size shown, while its visible portions are larger than a modern skyscraper, and the version seen in Dead Space 3 seemingly being made of a single large organism which was assimilated by the marker and its bacteria. Once the collected biomass reaches a certain threshold, the marker activates, and starts the process of convergence. This process is the birth of a new Brethren moon. The biomass is pulled directly into the air by the marker and starts to form a large moon-like object, pulling any nearby uninfected creatures in so that nothing survives. This process also strips away the remaining atmosphere of the planet as it ascends, killing any remaining life on the planet. This new Brethren moon then joins the galactic hive mind to spread its death and markers further into the universe.
Lunar Flight Control, this is CMS Terra Nova. Does anyone read us out here?